Yo, what's going on everybody? In this video we're going to be talking about the best possible loadout that you can get for melee classes in Terraria Master Mode. It's important that you know that I'm doing this in Master Mode because that's what's going to allow us to use more accessories, because obviously when you're playing in normal mode you can use up to 5, expert mode you can use 6, and master mode you can use 7. Let's talk about exactly what we are using for this setup. So if we go ahead and look into my inventory here, on the right side, we're going to have a full set of solar armor. Obviously, this is going to be important because it's going to give us a good amount of defense just off the rip from 20, 34, and 24 defense. On top of that, you also get the increased melee critical strike chance and then also increased melee damage. So all that's obviously going to be beneficial to our melee stats. And then for the accessories, you can use some combination of these. It really is up to you, but in terms of like damage output, these are really good. That I have right here, which will be the Warrior Emblem, the Avenger Emblem, Destroyer Emblem, Mechanical Glove, Fire Gauntlet, Celestial Shell, and the Eye of Golem. Basically what they're all going to do is either add increased melee damage, increased critical strike chance, increased melee damage and melee speed, and then this one also does like a combination of everything essentially, and then the Eye of the Golem does more increased critical strike chance. And what I've gone ahead and done with all the accessories is added the menacing prefix from the Goblin Tinkerer onto all of them. It costed it a little bit of money, but you know, in the end it's worth it because you get plus 4% damage on every single accessory here. So 4 times 7 is 28. That's an additional 28% damage just for having the menacing on all of your accessories. It's important to note that I'm using the Celestial Shell by itself and not with the Celestial Stone or with the Sunstone and Moonstone because the effects no longer stack like they used to, so all you really need is the one, and in this case we're going to be running the Celestial Shell. Now when it comes to these accessories here, this is strictly for damage output. This does not help with mobility. That's why I have the wings over here in the vanity slot, because sometimes I like to use the wings, so you know I'll just throw them on for whatever I want to replace them with, which is obviously going to be allowed me to fly in the air, which is going to be useful. But if you have a mount like the Duke Fishron mount or like the UFO, then that's going to give you some air mobility, so it's really depending on how you want to play the game and what your playstyle is. And then also, of course, the Onyx Shield, which is going to be helping with all of our debuffs and with knockback, but really, in terms of showcasing the output of damage, we're only going to use these accessories here, but in terms of practical gameplay, you're probably going to want to run either of these two, if not both of them, and, you know, it's up to you what kind of combination that you're going to go ahead and run with the accessories. Now, aside from the armor and the accessories, let's talk about the weapon. I'm sure you already all know what it is, but of course it's going to be none other than the legendary Zenith. The Zenith is basically like the pinnacle of all melee weapons in Terraria. You can go ahead and look a guide up on YouTube or on the wiki for how to build the Zenith, but essentially it's like all of the best swords in the game put into one. And then I modified it with the legendary modifier from the Goblin Tinkerer. I spent tons and tons of platinum in order to get this, so that's the only unfortunate part, but if you manage to grab yourself the legendary Zenith, that's obviously going to be the best case scenario. Now, to be paired with your Zenith, we're going to also use a few extra buffs in terms of our potions here. So first we're going to use some bacon. Really, you can use any kind of food you want, but what we're really looking for is the exquisitely stuffed buff, which is going to add an additional 10% increased damage, 10% increased melee speed, and 4% increased critical strike chance. That's obviously going to be beneficial here. A Wrath Potion, which increases our damage by 10%. A Rage Potion, which increases our critical strike chance by 10%. Sake, or you can use Ale, whichever one you really want to use. That's going to allow us to get the Tipsy modifier or buff, which is going to be a bit of a debuff and a buff at the same time. So what it'll end up doing is it'll give you -4 defense, but in return you get plus 10% increased melee damage, plus 10% increased melee attack speed, and plus 2% increased critical strike chance. So as long as you're running a pretty tanky defense setup already, then using the Sake definitely will be important for boosting your stats here. On top of that, we went ahead and used the Flask of Ichor on our melee weapons. That way, what happens when we hit an enemy is that they get reduced defense for like 10 to 19 seconds, which in turn adds like 7 to 8 weapon damage. So it might not be a lot, but for a 20-minute duration, why would you not run this when it's really easy to craft? And then of course the last thing is just the Sharpening Station, which will increase our armor penetration by 12. Something that's really easy to do. You literally just throw it on the ground and you right click it, and then there you go, you get increased armor penetration. Additionally, what you guys can do to increase your damage output, this is a little less important, but it definitely can be used, is the Feral Bite, which is only going to work in like your Expert and Master Mode worlds, which is where either Duke Fishron or some kind of bat bites you, and then you get a plus 20% increased damage, but it only lasts for a limited amount of time. and it's not exactly a practical thing to use when you're just playing the game. On top of that, you can also use the cute Fishron mount, which is something we talked about earlier when it comes to mobility if you're not going to use the wings. And if you have under 50% health or you're underwater, then for the next 6 seconds after that, you get plus 15% increased damage, which obviously is going to be very helpful there. But again, some people don't like that mount, some people prefer wings, some people would just prefer to use their character by itself. So I'm not going to be showcasing the Feral Bite and the cute Fishron mount in this video, but given everything that I have right now with the accessories, the armor, the zenith, and these buffs via the potions, we're going to go ahead and take on a few bosses here, one at a time, and then all together, just to kind of show you what it would look like if you were to run this setup. Okay, so let's go ahead and here, we'll turn off our Stardust Dragon, hit the Sharpening Station, use all of our buffs, and then we'll summon one boss at a time, and see what it looks like. Alright, well that was the Destroyer. He got absolutely melted. Twins also got melted. And Skeletron Prime got melted. Let's go ahead and spawn all those bosses in at the same time, and we'll throw in a Knife Cthulhu, because why not? I mean, we can do that. We'll go up here on some platforms. Spawn them all in. Alright, there you go. In a matter of, like, literally seconds, they all got wiped out, and I didn't take any healing potions. I mean, I will now, but I didn't take any healing potions during that battle. Literally took seconds, and you can do the same thing with basically any other boss in the game, whether it's the Golem, Plantera, you know, it doesn't matter. You're going to absolutely shred them with this melee build, so I definitely recommend that you guys try this out. Go ahead and get some combination of these accessories and these buffs, like I said, and you'll be cranking out melee damage like no tomorrow, you know? Alrighty guys, that's going to be it for the video. If you enjoyed the video, if you learned something new, if you're going to put anything that you saw in this video to use, be sure to leave a like on this video, because there's definitely going to be more Terraria content coming on the way. Ever since the addition of the Zenith into Terraria, melee classes have definitely become viable for endgame, especially in Master Mode, which is actually what I'm showcasing this world in right now, hence the 7 accessories. It's important to note that if you play this setup on an expert or a normal world, you're definitely going to have to tweak it a little bit because you can't use as many accessories. But nonetheless, it's still going to be an absolute powerhouse unit when it comes to damage output. Alrighty, hope you guys enjoyed what you just watched right there. As always, it's been Bartula, and I'll see you guys in the next one.